Welcome to the Sober Heathen podcast. I am the Sober Heathen. It is Sunday. There has been little sleep, but that's okay. I'm feeling pretty damn good. I got a great guest today. Can't wait to dive into that. Got some new things rolling around in the mind. I want to talk about that on X and Facebook. There'll be some posts so you can get some interest in adding some paranormal to the podcast. But anyway, that's for another day. This morning we have Amir. Welcome, Amir, to the Sober Heathen podcast, my friend.
Thank you so much. I love that intro. Gotta give it to you. That was awesome.
Man, the jam. I found the jam online. It's kind of one of those where you don't have to pay for it. Open source, whatever. Yeah. And I love it. I wish I could find how to take control of that sucker, but whatever. We're jamming and we're ready to go. So welcome to the podcast, man. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and a little bit about your journey through recovery.
Sure, man. Thank you. Again, thanks for having me here. I am Amir. I'm based out of Queens, New York, and hey, Lindsay. I see this. We got like a live chat going on. All right, this is great.
Yeah.
So Queens, New York. But before this, I lived in Texas for a couple of years, and before that, I lived on Long Island in New York for 10 or 15 years. So, but originally I was born in the old Soviet Union. So, Moved here when I was 10 years old, but more than the majority of my life has been spent in the U.S. So that's where I'm at. As far as my sobriety, I got sober in December 4th, 2021. So just over 2 years.
Awesome.
And it's been quite a journey. It's like I feel like I've been reborn. I'm sure I echo a lot of people when I say that. It's been the best decision of my life. Again, something everyone says. So I'm one of those people who just discovered sober life, and I just love it, and I want to talk about it, and I want to share stories about it, and meet people. So it's been fantastic. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, it's a good thing to do to get sober. You know what I mean? It's like drugs and alcohol are bad for you or something. But
who knew?
Yeah, who knew? I mean, people need to hear that more and more, on how great sobriety is, because it's so scary when you want to think about it. You're trying to get into it. All these. Well, at least I did. Excuse me. I knew all these bad things were happening, and I knew what the cause was, but I didn't want to give it up because it gave me something, or at least I perceived that it gave me something.
Yeah.
And it was really hard to give up. So you do the Sober Thinker. It's you have a website, a blog. Talk a little bit about that. What's the Sober Thinker?
So maybe I could take a couple of steps back because we talk about the editing your video. It was interesting because that's a topic I could talk about for a long time, because for many years I was into music and editing videos and making movies and all that stuff. And that was actually a big part of my life, because outside of my real job, which was I work in sales into technology kind of stuff. Outside of that, my hobby was doing music and recording sessions and sound engineering and all kinds of things like that. But the problem for me was that I was also doing a lot of drinking when I was doing that. So I'm just sitting there and just pounding away bottles while I'm editing. And it was an isolating experience, and it was very bad for my health, obviously. So I gave it up when I gave up drinking. I gave up that hobby. And then I was like realizing how bored I was because I didn't have any other hobby. And I had all this time from sobriety. So I would be reading a lot. I would just try to get, active at the gym, spending time with the kids, finding ways to fill my time. And then somebody just reminded me that maybe it's time for a good hobby again. So I was a little bit worried about what I was going to do. And I just thought, you know what, maybe I'll get into writing. And I started to put together an outline for a book. When the whole AI hype came out, everyone started freaking out, thinking, oh, all right, now I'm going to write books and this and that. I'm like, okay, let me see this thing. So I looked into AI and I thought maybe I'd start a book. After about 3 days of writing, I said to myself, who's going to read this book if nobody even knows me? So why don't I just start sending out maybe short newsletters about the book? So that's how it started. And then put out a couple of letters. People started to like it, started to grow in my subscription base, started to meet people. Got on X, discovered this huge community,
Oh, yeah.
the recovery posse, all these people, all these like sober celebrities. Everyone's got
Yeah.
like the sober heathen, you got the sober dad, you got the sober thinker, you got like all these people. They're like superheroes. And I'm really just enjoying the way, So that's
It's crazy how we can, and I can only assume that you loved the editing and the music and the things that you were doing before. That's why it was your hobby. It's amazing how we can let this, even from the little things from hobbies, obviously it infiltrates and affects our families too. I coached baseball and basketball for 13 years after I graduated, and, I didn't pursue sports outside of that. And, I would cancel practices because I was hungover. I would do those type of things, and you talked about the bottles, man. And it's like, I was a safety guy inside a Dow Chemical. And I think a lot of people know Dow, the name Dow. Well, they're big plant in Midland, Michigan. I worked there. I got to the point in my drinking where it was a game to drink on the job and hide it in trash cans all throughout the plant. And so it's kind of amazing. You know what I mean?
That's hilarious.
I look back at it, I have to laugh at it now. Absolutely. Yeah.
You don't work with them anymore, do you?
Hell no. No, I never want to do safety again. That's a rough job. But it's funny. I had to lead the charge to find out who was leaving these bottles all over the place. I was one of the guys that had to investigate that. But anyway, back to Amir, man. So what led you to say, you know what, enough is enough? What was that point? We were kind of talking about that in a chat I was in earlier this morning. That bottom, what kind of made you make that decision to say, okay, I'm changing?
Yeah. So I think, like many people, I've tried to quit many times,
Mhm.
and it's not like that was the first time. But I think it was a combination of things, just everything in life coming to that one point. You find yourself at this bottomless pit. I call it the abyss. It's from that book, A Journey of a Thousand, a Hero with a Thousand Faces. Great book.
Mhm.
It was just like my age. My kids were at a certain age. And I was just realizing that the life that I envisioned for myself did not match the reality that I was living.
Yeah.
Like, I thought I was going to be this great dad and this great husband with this, with this nice house and like this career, and I've achieved all these things and I had so much money saved and this and that. And then I realized, like, instead I'm spending all this time in bars and strip clubs, wasting money and like just burning myself out every night, barely waking up in the morning and then rushing to work again. Just realized I was just in going in the wrong direction. I wasn't spending enough time with the kids or at home or fixing the things that needed to be fixed at home. And I think one morning I woke up with like a huge receipt from the night before, and I'm like thinking about my kids' college. I'm like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
And I was smoking a lot too, so I felt pain, and like the hangover. It was just all of this stuff at the same time. And I woke up and I just, you know what, I'm done. But what made it happen actually is it was December, and dry January was right around the corner. And that's something I was doing for like 4 years already. So I think I'm grateful that I've gotten into this habit of, abstaining from alcohol for a month or two at the beginning of the year. And this time it was December 4th. I was like, you know what? I'm going to start early. And I don't think I'm ever going to drink again. So that was the moment. That was like the moment where I realized that I was going to take it seriously. But then the hard work began.
Sure. So you made the choice to do it. And I think that's so important for so many people to hear that, you'd done this investigation into what was going on. You had this perception of what you wanted to be, or dream of who and what you wanted to be. And that changed you took the ship in a different direction when you made those observations. I think it's so important that can happen. And because I hear so many different people saying, nope, that's not possible. Well, this is a great case of that being possible. You're just reflecting, observing, and putting in a plan. So 2 years into it now, that perception of who you wanted to be, the great dad and whatever, where are you at on that? Do you think you're there, or how did that goal, you're always moving toward it, but I mean, do you feel like you're getting there or there?
Yeah, the other day I just kind of slowed down and I looked back and I said, "Wow, I'm actually happy right now. I'm finally doing what I
Yeah.
aim to do. I'm not perfect, right? It's still like you said, it's a work in progress. But I look back and I've recovered the losses and I've built so much more on top of it through sobriety. You know, so yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's important again to everybody needs to understand that this progress happens quicker and shorter for certain people. The financial thing for me isn't there yet, where I'm at in my recovery, but the internal riches, I guess, if I want to call it, or internal wealth is far more than what I had, these 15, 16 months ago, however long it's been now for me.
yeah.
And
I think you just said the key point, the internal riches.
yeah,
Uh, I may not be where I expected to be financially when I was a teenager, watching music videos of private jets and Lamborghinis. But I I do much more value the other riches, such as I have my kids, you know,
yeah,
I have my wife, I have a roof over my head, I wake up to a warm house, I have I have a job, I have internet, I get to meet people like you, I get to live and be in control of my emotions and my actions. This is more than I've ever had for the
yeah,
most of my life.
yeah. It's incredible. I mean, we're talking from Michigan to New York right now about recovery, and from Australia to England, Canada. I've had all kinds of people that I never would have talked to in my entire life. So, I don't ever want to put my family and myself through that hurt and pain again. But holy crap, am I grateful for crawling out of that hole? And that's a
Seriously,
lesson that you can't put a price tag on, for sure.
absolutely. Especially when you meet so many people who are still trying to find that way,
Yeah,
who are struggling and just can't seem to get that energy enough to get themselves out of that hole.
yeah,
And I have a lot of friends like that who ask me how I'm doing this, and a lot of them subscribe to my newsletter,
yeah,
but I know they drink. And they call me sometimes and they tell me, look, I tried, I'm drinking, this is hard. How do you do it? And I don't always have an answer for them.
yeah,
And I also know that no matter what I tell them, it's not going to matter until they're ready to take action.
yeah, yeah. And I
So,
think saying I don't know earns trust,
yeah,
because when you go to somebody that always has an answer for everything, that to me, like, it's powerful to say I don't know. And one thing I don't think that, especially the recent guests like yourself, when you guys come on and you share your stories, and I work in an outpatient facility where I do a lot of intakes, and I'm a recovery coach there. When I hear something on your guys' story, I can direct them to say, hey, go check out this website that this person does. Hey, I just had a guy on my podcast, or I just had this woman on my podcast that said this or that. And then they can go and they can hear it from somebody else. Because I know for me, and I don't know if you have any experience in going into any kind of treatment, but when I went in there, I just felt like it was the same lines and song and dance that everybody was saying. And, well, I'm just going in here and these people are going to tell me the same thing that the last people told me. And it's completely pointless. But when they can hear real people living it like yourself, I think that really can change things.
100%. You see, I never even thought about um, some of the things that I write about today, and and the reason for that is because I've been always this cocky person, and not cocky in a negative sense, but I was just young and ambitious and wanted to be successful and wanted to have fun. So I always kind of went out and I took chances and I tried things, exposed myself to new things, and I kind of felt unstoppable and it helped me with my career. It helped me with friends and meeting my wife, and that was all great. But then when your 30s hit, and then you have some kids, and then you get some bills, and then all of a sudden you're not the most important person in the world.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you have to make decisions that don't just affect you, but affect all these other people. And then you're like, wait a minute, I'm not ready for that yet. I'm still worried about me. So I think that moment came to me in my 30s, and I started to feel sad, and I started to feel depressed, and I started not knowing how to deal with that. So from my 30s, and I'm 40 now. So that decade, it's amazing. Like just that my 20s were amazing. My 30s they were they changed me. They my 30s took me off this high to new highs in many ways,
Sure.
but to like some of the lowest lows. And through that time, it affected every part of my life, financially, health, emotionally. But I stuck through with my family. My wife stayed with me. My kids grew. Thank God. That's the most important thing. And during this time, as I went through all these things, all the things that they don't even know that I had to deal with, that I've now been able to come out of the 30s sober and look back, and all the lessons I learned along that way is what I journal about in my personal journal.
Mm-hmm.
And I found some things that I was like, man, I wish I knew these things when I was younger.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Like whether it's something your parents should teach you, but they didn't. Maybe you didn't have parents. Maybe you didn't have parents. Like I had immigrant parents. They don't know how this system works. They themselves have a plethora of mental health issues. So all these things that I wish I knew, I've discovered through reading, through listening to podcasts, through reading books and like talking to people. And that's kind of what fuels my sobriety today. It keeps me focused, and it's part of my meditation, which is all those lessons and all those affirmations that came along the way.
Yeah, you talk about a journal. I have like 3 of them going right now for different reasons. And well, I don't want to make it sound like I'm writing all 3 every single day, but I have one for the podcast for, just to look back and reflect and try to, just keep fresh on what I used to do and see how my thoughts about podcasts have changed. And then I have a personal one that one day I hope go to my kids so they can have a little bit of that knowledge of, that you were talking about. They can see what Dad went through. God forbid they have to go through anything like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I want, go ahead.
No, I love that. I love hearing that.
Yeah, and the other one is I got one of these shadow journals that I'm working through the worksheets on that, but I don't know how I feel about that. But anyway, you said something about selfish, and I like talking about that. Cocky and selfish. So in addiction, we are that. We are selfish. But in recovery, we also have to be selfish in a different way. So what are your thoughts on the difference between the two?
Oh man, I think that's a great question. I think the first part, selfish in a way where you harm yourself and you don't care that other people love you.
Like that.
And that's the selfishness that people call you. But on the other side, when you're selfish and you take care of yourself because you love yourself, I think those are the two differences. And it took me a long time to go from one to the other. That's the way I look at it.
Dude, I'm writing that down. You didn't care that people loved you. You don't care that people love you. That's big. I mean, I like that because I didn't. I knew they did, and I loved them, and I didn't want them to hurt. But that I had to. AA uses the term ease and comfort, and I think that's a home run. They don't get everything right, but I think on that one, it's a home run. Like all those things in my head and my heart that were bothering me, I would take that bottle, and that ease and comfort that came from swallowing that bottle, and before it could even affect me, I felt that ease and comfort. But yeah, the recovery selfishness is completely different. Yeah.
I really think that, because it's funny that my letter that's coming out tomorrow is on this point, on this topic, which is loving yourself, because that's one of those things that when you ask people, you either get someone who's, oh yeah, I do love myself, I take care of myself, or you get somebody that says, no, I can't love myself.
Yeah.
It's hard. Can't look at myself in the mirror and say I love me or I love you. Can't do it because it's so uncomfortable. It is just, but if you think about it, you're the only one in the room. You're talking to yourself, and you can't say I love you to yourself. Why?
Yep.
What do you blame yourself for? Why are you guilty? And why is it so difficult for you to say that? And I think once you figure that out and you can lay it all out, and then after you look at it and just say, you know what? I forgive you and I love you. That's really the first step to starting to being okay with taking care of yourself. Instead of drowning your sorrows with a bottle of Jack, you could say, that's not healthy for me.
Yep.
I wouldn't do that if I was taking care of someone I'm responsible for. And that's a big part of what I had to go through, and I think that's a big part of what most of us have to go through.
I think a great test to see how you feel about yourself is to do exactly that. I did that in treatment, trying to say 3 nice things to myself 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. To somebody that you really truly care about is hurting, go say those 3 things that you would tell them to yourself. Looking yourself dead in the eye in the mirror will tell you a lot about how you feel about yourself. Because I know when I was really beginning to forgive myself and I would do those affirmations in the mirror, man, I would cry like a baby.
Yep.
Because it's like I was starting to realize by listening to other people's stories that, I'm not bad. I just did bad, and I'm a pretty decent person, and that's when the changes started to happen. Because you change within, everything on the outside is gonna come in. I truly believe that.
100%. And it's also the way you talk to yourself and the way you treat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I started doing with my wife's help, because she watches a lot of these, spiritual and she's into numerology, so she's into all these things.
Cool.
She would probably love to be on your paranormal podcast.
We'll have to do that.
So the thing that we started doing was stop using negative words or destructive words or harmful words or mean words towards each other, whether it's in our inner speak or just actually using words to describe our life. So she would catch me if we're trying to go on a vacation, and I'd say, oh, we can't go there because we're broke. She would say, we're not broke. We need to save more. I'm like, yeah, you're right. We need to save more before we go to that vacation.
Yeah.
Then we go in and I drop something. Oh, I'm so stupid. She's like, you're not stupid. You just made a mistake. Like
I like
correct. Because even just the everyday words.
It will change things, man. I believe it 100%. It's so hard to do, but it'll change things. I just did for one of my groups at work. I wrote on the wall, I wrote in green, or in red, I wrote, I have to do blank. And then in green, I wrote, I get to do blank.
Yep.
Right? Like, and for the people that I'm talking to, they're like me. They've been in a cage on more than one occasion. Like, I have to go to this group tonight, and then I have to go to work in the morning. No, you get to go to group and have a chance to talk about something that you need to, and then you get to go to work and make some money because you're not in a cage, right? Like, you're not in jail. So you got to be, flip those positive things, man. And it can start really changing your mindset. It really can. On the days that I can really focus on that, they're really good days for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think it starts with gratitude. And we were on that call yesterday with Lindsay and crew.
Mm-hmm.
everybody seems to agree that living with gratitude is the foundation of having a happy life. Because I feel like if you start with gratitude and you just realize that the mere fact that you are able to even have this conversation or thought, that you're able to be here and practice mindfulness and gratefulness, that you should be grateful for it, and just kind of start from there. Now I can go and have breakfast. Now I can go and have some coffee. Now I can go and have some fresh air. Now I can go and kiss my kids, whatever it may be. Um, but going back to selfishness, some of the people who are in the darkest of places in my life, they always say, "I can't quit. I'm too stressed. I'm too far down. I'm too sick. I can't afford to get a therapist. I can't talk to therapists. They don't, I'm smarter than a therapist. They can't teach me anything that I don't already know. I can't go to AA because I don't believe in, I don't, I. It's like, okay, then why did you ask me for help? I mean, I know you're trying to get up, but you're not opening up your mind. And I was like that too.
Yep, sure.
And it was like this surrender that I had to do that morning when I woke up and I said, I can't do this anymore. I surrendered my ego and I said, I am no longer in control of my emotions and my actions. The way I've been going hasn't been working for me. I need to try something different. So what I started doing, and I'm not a religious person. So like I grew up in a religious household. Well, half. My mom was religious. My dad wasn't. So I grew up around religion, but I was never it wasn't operationalized into my life.
Sure.
But I did start to pray every morning after that. And the way I pray is I ask for strength to get through the day, to get through and avoid toxic thoughts and toxic behaviors. And those are like guilt, to avoid feeling guilty, to avoid recalling a trauma or any other trigger that I might have in my head for something I've done, because I need to forgive myself and I need to overcome it and I need to grow from it. So every morning I'd wake up and recite this prayer and then get out of bed and then have a day. That let me release myself to be able to find a new path, one that I wasn't familiar with, that I was looking for, to just open myself up to something new. And that's how it started.
Yeah, I think prayer, the whole heathen thing, that says a lot about me. But I prayed before too, but now I look at it more as like prepping. So if I want to be a track athlete, I don't go eat crap, the night before a meet. I start out by jogging. I think prayer can be for those that are like me, on the secular side or whatever. It can just be prepping your mind for the next day. Tomorrow I just put it out into the universe. I'm just asking for the strength in it to get through this tomorrow. Give me the courage to go to this job interview and give it my all. And the first time, I got down on my knees at treatment when things really started to click, and I got down on my knees and I just spoke to the universe. I wasn't speaking to anyone or anything. I just said, I can't do this. I want to die, but I don't want to die. I want to live, but I have no effing idea how I'm going to do this. And then I continued. I laid down at night and I said, this is what I want. This is what I need. I just need a little extra. I just need a little push, a little guidance, something. I just need to see something. And I think that activated my brain to start looking around and seeing the things that were already there. And then I was able to follow those things a little bit because, I kind of set my mind up. I prepped for it, right? So that's kind of how I look at it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if you log into the Sober Thinker at beehive.com, the description says the semi-secular guide to sobriety, because I may not be fully on the religious side. I do think there are some elements of spirituality. And to me, spirituality may not be any specific religion. It could just be our souls, our spirits, our energy. And then going back to words, how words matter, and the words we use, the words we say and put out into the universe shape our existence. So that morning prayer, or like you call it prepping, I love that actually, is a way to put those words out into the universe and to give yourself direction for that day, to say, I'm going to be on this path, and that's my intention for today.
Yep.
I want to be sober. I want to make sure my kids are safe. I want to make sure that I become 1% better today than I was yesterday.
1% is a win. I mean, heading north is heading north. You know what I mean? I really hope people can hear that and understand that, because it's really hard to see, because evidence would suggest that people in addiction are impatient and they want things now. You know what I mean? And that's, I know for me, that's why I went from drinking a few beers to drinking a half pint to drinking a pint to buying fifths and half gallons. I needed that, whatever that could give me right now. So yeah, 1%, even 1% is a win for sure.
And it's been 2 years. So 2 years times 1%, I don't know, that's at least 5%.
Right?
I don't know. I really don't know the math, but my son was saying, he's like, Dad, so that means you're 2,000% better now? I'm like, no, that's not even how it works.
Well, you might feel that way some days, and that's all that matters, right?
That's right. That's right. I like something. I want to kind of just go to the next thought that came to me after you said that.
Sure.
Because we talked about, words and how they lead to better actions and prayer, and now getting 1% better. So that actually lost my thought. That's hilarious. I was just so excited about this conversation. It'll come to me back, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how to try to bring it back, but so your site is on the beehive.com. So make sure, if you're not watching on the video and see the scrolly deal on the bottom, go to beehive.com and look for the Sober Thinker. I can actually Google it and see if you pop up that way too. Yeah, there it is. Sober Thinker. It'll pop up right below all the ads. It'll be the top on your list. So that's an easy way to find Amir on that.
But no, I guess we were talking about just how do we continue to get better, right? And what is it that we do for ourselves? And one of the things that I needed to redefine for myself was fun. Like, what is fun?
Sure.
Fun for me used to be just getting drunk and staying out with friends and telling jokes, which was fun.
Sure.
Drinking is fun. Like, I mean, that's why most people do it.
Yep.
And the problem is it just can get out of hand. And then you can't control it. And then that fun, now you're not having fun, you're just drinking. And people around you are having fun. But you're like struggling. So what was your experience like dealing with that part?
Well, everything, yeah. I mean, I've had people try to tell me that it wasn't really fun. It just appeared that way, or you perceived it as fun, but it was fun. I mean, I got excited when it was time to have people around the bonfire to tell jokes, like you're saying, and hang out and go do something crazy, or go to a club or whatever, or
absolutely
deer camp or whatever. That was fun. And so for fun for me now, yeah, I spent a lot of time not knowing what the hell I wanted to do for fun. Like, what is fun? Like, I don't watch TV. I'll watch a sports game when it's on, and another guilty pleasure, I'll watch WWE with Miley. But that's it. Like, I used to sit and watch shows on Netflix when I was drinking, just episode after episode after episode. That's not me anymore. Baseball was such a huge part of my life with the coaching and everything. I love the sport itself, and I'll watch a game or two here, but it's not. I had to rediscover myself completely. Like, I wasn't a person before alcohol that would ever have gotten in front of a camera and talked to a friend, let alone people that I've never met before. But it turns out that's fun. This is like I woke up so tired today just because there's, some things going on in life that's, stressed me out a little bit. I get a little bit of sleep. But once we get talking, man, I'm ready. I'm ready to take on the day right now. I'm pumped. So yeah, I mean, you might have to rediscover yourself. And I think I tried to force some things for a while, like certain video games or certain TV shows or things like this is who I used to be. Why is this not fun? Well, that's because you're older, you're sober. There's a bunch of things that factor into it.
Yeah, I agree. Being on this podcast is more fun than I've had in a long time. I was on the Sober Dad podcast
love
earlier.
that guy.
He's great. And that was my first one. He broke my cherry. And now I'm here with you. You got the experienced version. And we just talking about it feels great. Sharing ideas. Hopefully people learn something new. But some of the things that I looked at for fun, I tried to force myself to play video games. I was never into video games.
Sure.
I don't know why. I just can't. I guess it stresses me out. Like when I reach a level, I can't beat a boss. I start getting a little anxious, and that's a trigger for me. I can't deal with anxiety too much. I need to like walk it off or something, or else it's gonna make me want to smoke or drink.
Sure.
But I did come up with some things that I started to do, and one of the things that I did was, this is my first time last year in April. I decided that I would go for a long walk, and I walked from my house in Queens all the way to Central Park in Manhattan, and then walked back. That was about a 24-mile walk.
Nice.
The idea came from reading a book. I think it was called Do Hard Things. And they suggested if you have issues with anxiety or stress or worry, sometimes what you need to do is build the capacity to handle those things. And the way you build that capacity is by doing difficult things. Like working out, lifting heavy weights is an example of that. Or going and diving into a cold pool of water. All of those things, they shock your system and they make you build that capacity. So what I decided to do was I decided to go for that long walk. And I loaded up a bunch of podcasts, some books, some music, got a book bag, got some chapstick. It was April, so it was still cold. And I just went for this walk, and it was just such a new experience for me.
Yeah.
And I saw so many new things. I saw people, I met people. Walking from Queens to Manhattan, I must have seen, talk about religion, must have seen 20 different types of churches, mosques, synagogues, different types of like sects of Christianity, like you name it. There's like all these different things. It was just so interesting to take pictures and walk. And then when I got to the city, I took a nap. Then I went to get a foot rub, and then I walked all the way back.
Nice.
And then I felt such a sense of satisfaction. And I saw all these new things. And the next day I was excited. I was like, kids, I found this park. I found this ferry. I found this store. We should go back. And my feet hurt so bad. But I still went out the next day and took them back to all those places that I saw.
Awesome.
And that's not something I would consider as fun when I was drinking.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, it's so important, man. And the bucket list, Central Park is on my bucket list. I don't know why, but it's always in movies and talked about in movies. I want to see it. I want to go to New York. I want to see New York so bad. But yeah, like I never read books before I got sober. Now I read all kinds of recovery books. Like I'm not like an avid reader, but I've read way more books in these since September 11th of 2022 than I read all combined before that. And it's something, and you feel a sense of completion, a sense of achievement, putting that book down. I didn't get that. I didn't understand that before. But when you read a book, I like to go through and I highlight, and I got sticky notes on this thing.
Yeah.
And I look at that thing like,
you're an analytical type.
yeah, I'm like, man, I like this. This is good, you know. And the video game thing has changed for me too. I used to like to play alone. Now I don't really like to do it unless my buddies are willing to hop on, you know. So everything can change. You just got to be willing to explore, and sometimes just be willing not to force it.
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes you don't need a huge event to have fun. Sometimes it's something small, like
Yeah,
playing a board game, or playing cards with somebody, or even just having a normal conversation with someone.
yeah.
That's been interesting. I have a friend who I used to drink with a lot, and I still stay in touch with him. The last couple of times we hung out, I go to the bar, same bar that we would go to. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I did it anyway. I ordered myself a Heineken 00, or a seltzer, or a Red Bull. Sometimes if I'm really feeling crazy, I'll get a Red Bull. Um, and and we just have this really nice conversation. It's just nice talking to him. Problem is, as the time goes on, he gets drunker and drunker,
Yeah,
and I'm just watching, and I'm realizing that okay, it's time to go for me because
yeah,
this conversation is not going well anymore. And I feel bad because I really enjoy my conversation with him, but um, he's not on the same path yet. So that's been interesting.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's a lot of strength being showed there to be able to say, all right, well, I got to go. Those are boundaries. You can talk about those all day long. It's your preference, to go into a bar or not. I can go into a bar and not have a problem. You know what I mean? Like, because I know I can't. Even if I snuck one, it would only be one. So what's the point? You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
that wasn't my go-to. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it just shows a lot of strength, man, for sure.
Thanks. I haven't been going back there because it hasn't been as fun anymore.
Yeah,
And
I know the smaller towns around here, the bars smell funny, and that's. I don't know what I found fun in it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. I when other than going in there now and having a good bar burger, some greasy
yeah,
fries.
yeah,
I'm like, man, it's just how did I spend so many hours in this thing? So many
hmm
thousands of dollars in there.
yeah. How do you deal with your friends now that you're sober? I mean, do you have any friends that won't hang out with you? I mean, I'm sure everybody still wants to hang out with you or not, but like,
Uh,
how's that been?
yeah, no, I'm lucky. Nobody important has left my, or nobody that's important has left my life.
Good.
My good friends, I was the problem among my friends. They might get drunk a few times a year if they do that. I was the problem drinker, and so I'm fortunate to have them still around. So yeah, I dodged that bullet completely. And the people that aren't around anymore that were more of the heavy drinkers, it's like I don't really miss that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'd love to know how they're doing and chat sometime, but yeah, I'm really fortunate, and I know that's not the case for a lot of people, but that's another blessing for me.
That's a huge blessing.
Yeah.
So and I bet they love you even more now that you're sober because you're
Dude, they
like,
listen to my podcast, and
yeah,
you know, uh, they're like, oh yeah, I'm like, yeah. So I did this podcast. You're like, I know, I listened to it. I'm like, son of a bitch, thank you, man.
yeah.
That means a lot to me.
Why didn't you leave me a comment then or send me an email?
Yeah, yeah. Well, did you like and subscribe? Come on, gotta help the
Yeah.
algorithm here.
That's right. I get that with the newsletter too. It's like, oh, so I just wrote about it. Like, yeah, I read it. It was good. I'm like, oh, thank you. That's great.
Yeah, so make sure to find the Sober Thinker on Beehive, and there's some good articles on there. I've only made it to I think 3 of them, but they're really good. So make sure to check that out. It's worth the read. Amir's got some good stuff on there. What else you got going on, man? Anything else that you'd like to talk about?
Um,
Are you
going
writing a
back.
book? Did you say?
Well, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take all the letters. I'm gonna write 52 letters, one for every week of the year,
Okay. Okay.
and I'm gonna put them all together into one book, and I'm gonna call it something like "Letters from the Sober Thinker," and how to handle 52 life's triggers.
Awesome.
And that's what it's about. Because they're like one of them is about money, one of them is about sacrifice, one of them is about um, time and family. So there'll be one for something for everyone, I think.
That's great. Those daily reading type, like daily reading for like a daily letter thing, those are huge for me. It seems stacked up over there in the corner. I got a bunch of those. So that's
Oh
awesome. I'm
yeah,
looking forward to that, man.
definitely. Yeah, I mean, journaling has been really helpful for me, and sounds like you're into that too.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do like a little reflection and some journaling, and put it out there, and then we'll see where that goes. We'll see where that takes us.
Yeah. Yeah. And to touch on journaling one more time and get your take on that too. I know that when I've suggested it, they're like, yeah, but what if somebody finds it? Write it down and burn it. You know what I mean? You don't have to keep it. I went crazy in my last. I learned the Elder Futhark rings from the Norse mythology, or runes, not rings, runes, and what letters they represent in English. And so I write in Futhark. So there's not going to be many people that could decipher that quickly enough to read through my crap. So I let it all out, and that is so therapeutic. So that's what I'm saying. Like, do a video diary and delete it or something. Just getting it out on paper, you wouldn't believe how much that helps.
So, all right, let's talk about this. I'm at this weird place that I've written 10 letters, and I find myself feeling like I've purged all this stuff from my head, and I feel light, and I feel amazing that all these complex ideas, I've been able to put them together and put them into my website. And now it's almost like I'm running out of fuel. I feel like I'm running out of fuel because I've put all these things together that I've been using as steps through my recovery, and I'm at this point where I'm facing this new possibilities of creating new things, and it's exciting. But going back to what you're saying, when you put stuff on paper, it relieves you.
Yeah.
It makes you, it breaks you free. Like our thoughts hold us down unless we let them out.
Absolutely. I'll tell you what, that made me think of something. A year ago today, I was in jail for an OWI that happened 2.5 years ago. It took them 2.5 years to come around to decide to punish me for it. And I was going through Friday and some downtime at work. I was going through the notes that I wrote in there. I was listening to recovery podcasts while I was in there, and I was writing. And to be able to go back and revisit and see how things have changed, and to see the knowledge that I had forgotten that I had back then. There was some knowledge in there that, had slipped away from me. Man, it's incredible. It's like you're going back and you're talking to yourself. It's like time travel. It really is. So just to do that alone, man, is very therapeutic.
Yeah, I agree. In my journal, I write, come back to this every time you feel a certain way. Come back to this. Come back to this. I never do, of course, until it's like years later, because you're always writing new stuff. But I don't think it actually ever leaves us.
Right.
I think when you write it down, you may forget about it. Usually we forget about it because it's already ingrained.
Sure.
And new thoughts probably reinforce that. And then all these thoughts and all these pieces of wisdom that we collect along the way, they act as our anchors, sort of, when it comes to moral decisions and just habit, avoiding habit or creating a new habit.
Yeah.
I don't think that we ever forget those things. I think they stay inside. And when we see them again, they're like, oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Right.
Yeah. Won't go off in the weeds on this one. But there, you said habits, creating new habits. J.J. McCarthy, the quarterback for the University of Michigan, they were talking about how will brush his teeth with the opposite hand from time to time, just so he's not in that habit. You go in to brush your teeth, or you're walking or driving somewhere, and you get there and like, man, I don't remember doing that. So mix it up a little bit, like create new things, new habits. So he's in there brushing his teeth with his left hand. I still got to try that. I don't know how that would feel. You know what I mean? Yeah, new habits, man. That's everything.
Have you created any new habits?
Well, nothing that's stuck. You know what I mean? I was making my bed every single morning, like tight, like military, and then that went away. And then now my thing is, the laundry gets done and it goes immediately where it needs to be, not folded in a pile and sit there. I do my best to do that. Um, I try to clean the space, once a day. So yeah, I mean, those are things that I never used to do before. But
Mhm.
for me, it's a struggle. It's a struggle to stay consistent. I'm a work in progress, man.
Yeah, no, I get it. Same thing. That's why I do the morning affirmations. That the direction. I usually throw it in there, whatever I want to build or whatever I want to focus on or remind myself on. I put that in there. So that's been my biggest habit is that morning affirmation. Um, and I remembered what I forgot earlier.
Awesome.
Maybe save it for the end. It's like perfect.
Yeah.
You talked about how we always want to see results now.
Mhm.
I think that when I was down into my addictions, I was always in this mode of go, go, go. It's like this high speed, high, like quick, um, just immediate satisfaction, immediate gratification. Always about moving. I couldn't sit still. If I was drinking somewhere, I was at a bar, I was just walking around, I was always looking, I was trying to go somewhere. Let's go have another drink. Let's go here. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Never having the patience. It was hard to meditate. It was hard to sit still. It was hard to sleep. And when I, on the other side of it, now that I'm sober, I feel much, much more calmness and stillness and just kind of everything. Like, I'm not going anywhere. I'm here. Right? There's a book. No matter where you go, there you are.
Right.
It's it's that like you start to actually experience that better. So I think the substances that drive us or that pulled us towards them, they give you this feeling of that you always have to go somewhere. Whereas the reality is you just have to be comfortable with staying where you are. And that meditation, that peaceful realization is something that first of all, I feel like it feels great. It grounds you, it makes you feel good. But that is also the same part that you have to learn how to deal with because that's where boredom comes from too.
Yeah.
Um, and that's been my biggest challenge, dealing with that, going from being this like a mouse in a wheel to now learning to just be where I am
Yeah.
and not worrying about the past, future, or where I'm going next. Just being here in the moment.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. I talk about this often. The amount of time and effort that I had to put into planning how to get my next bottle, and then when I had my next bottle, how to get it home and in the house without being caught, then where to hide it in the house without it being found, then to remember where it was after I passed out and came to, you know, the next morning, and then how to get rid of the bottles, and then start right back at the beginning and do it again. There was so much effort and energy put into that. There is, and there was boredom. I think you brought up a good point. There was boredom because I didn't have this constant plan of deceit and deception and plotting. That opened up a lot of time, man. It really did. It opened up a lot of freaking time.
Yeah. And all the lies, like you said, the lies, all the coming up with the way, what am I going to do here? What am I going to say here? How am I going to sneak this in? It's like planning a bank heist every day.
It is, dude. It is. I'll share this, and then I'll let you go. We're coming up in an hour, but I've shared it before. But I think it to go to any lengths they talk about in AA, go to any lengths to stay sober. Well, because we went to any lengths to drink. I was laying in bed, hungover as hell, and I knew Miley was mad at me one day. I knew she was mad, and she was on to my schemes, even though she wanted to believe that I really wasn't drinking. There was something else going on. I laid there in that bed, and I said to myself, I'm like, okay, this is what we're going to do. So I get up and I get out of bed, and I start walking down the hallway out of the bedroom. She's in the living room. And I fall on the ground as hard as I can, intentionally. And then again, I'm just lay there, and she comes running. What's going on? What happened? Are you okay? Because she's both caring and pissed off at me at the same time, right? So I was like, I tripped over a cat. And I acted all out of it. And she's like, we don't have a cat. And so, long story short, I created this entire mental thing that was going on in my head and went and got a bunch of tests, dude. How insane is that? You know what I mean? That is just absolutely insane to pay, how much money for medical bills, to go get tested for something that wasn't real just to protect the drink, dude. That's what this thing can do to people. And it takes equal and opposite other things to get rid of it.
Yeah. And I think that's an example of how far it can go.
Yeah.
And if you don't stop it, you're only fooling yourself, because I have a friend who's got young kids, and it reminds me of when I was a kid, because my mom is an alcoholic and she's always had this difficulty. She would binge drink, so she's got her own thing. But this friend's son, he is onto her. When she doesn't drink, obviously it's great, but if she has one beer, she goes, he notices it in my eyes.
Yeah.
You can sense the tiniest little drop of alcohol in the person you love.
Sure.
So I guess the message that I would love to just let everyone know, that I think everybody already does know, that you can't fool anyone. You're only fooling yourself.
Yep.
You think you're so smart. Oh, what's that smell? Oh, I just Listerine. That's not Listerine. There's no cat.
There's no cat. There's no cat. Oh, shit. All right. Well, this was great, Amir, man. Thanks so much for coming on. We'll have to do it again soon. Again, make sure to check out the Sober Thinker. If you just Google it, he pops right up. It's on Beehive. Some great articles on there to read. I can verify that for sure for free, but there's a lot more on there, and I'm sure they're all great too. Thanks again, man.
They come out every Monday morning at 7:30. If you subscribe with your email address, they'll come to your inbox. You can reply to me. I'll stay in touch. I reply back. It's just a community to keep this conversation going. And I appreciate you, Sober Heathen.
Yeah. All right. Sober Thinker, man. And yeah, he is active in the comments. I was reading some of those too. Those are good too. Those are always good to get involved in that. So make sure to check it out. And thanks again, man. Hopefully we can do this again soon.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Have a beautiful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.